crypto millionaire who sued me now facing 15 years in prison.
This former multimillionaire crypto YouTuber has completely destroyed his life over the last couple of years to the point where he's become almost unrecognizable. The dude went from being a married decamillionaire with a family, flexing his Lamborghini while suing me for calling him out for scamming his audience, to now whatever this is. Because within a year of suing me, his entire empire started collapsing, including his Lambo being taken away from his business partner. Then he was arrested outside of his business partner's house with his mistress when he showed up to steal his Lamborghini back. Then he got out of jail, got divorced, started touring the world with his mistress, and even fighting in a few boxing matches. She ended up dumping him, and then he dropped this manifesto, and eventually ended up in jail and is now facing 15 years in prison. At this point, it seems like he's lived like multiple lifetimes in the span of like 3 years. And to be honest, I didn't expect this to go downhill as quickly because, again, all of this happened in like 3 years. So meet Ben Armstrong, or BitBoy Crypto. Many of you guys would recognize him as the dude who sued me for defamation a few years ago.
So I just got some stuff for you.
Oh, what is it?
I don't know. It's a box.
I don't need it.
Well, you can serve your link.
What are you doing?
Oh,
Build a
wow,
website you
creepy
love.
crazy.
With Wix. For your words,
So yeah, I have officially been sued.
Why did he do that? Well, because I made a video about his video on this token called Pamp, where he literally said, "This coin can only go up." So I called him out for scamming his audience after that coin rug pulled. He obviously didn't like that, so he sent me a cease and
Wow,
desist to
crazy.
delete the video. I completely ignored that, and then, a few months later, he ended up suing me. And to me, and this is my opinion, it seemed like he wanted to sue me to drain me for as much money as possible because he wanted to get back at me because I made this video on him. And again, this is because he didn't like a video of mine where I called him out for scamming his audience. So I guess his brilliant idea was to sue me, which backfired on him because I didn't want to surrender to a scammer. So I decided to make him suing me as public as possible because he didn't want this public at all. Because at the end of the day, he didn't have a case. And I wanted to make sure that people knew that he was being paid to bring retail investors into awful investments. So I decided to make a response and raise funds to fight this. But at the time, I felt like that original video I made on him could cause me some sort of like interstellar moment where that one move cost me 52 years, or maybe instead of 52 years, cost me like, I don't know, 5 to 10 years of my life. Because if I somehow lost that suit, had to pay for his attorneys, pay my attorney's fees, and whatever damages he decided to claim, that could have been a disgusting amount of money. I would still be paying that off to this day. Because I was hearing this could cost me anywhere from like, $50,000 all the way into the millions.
Now that's crazy.
So, awesome. Thankfully, we dodged that bullet because of you guys. Because in the US, unfortunately, you can keep appealing and delaying a suit, and that will then cost the person way more money. And meanwhile, the dude is out here flexing his lavish lifestyle and claiming to be worth over $10 million. But thanks to all of you guys, and specifically Kobe, who donated over $100,000, combined, we raised about $250,000 overnight. And, just over 24 hours later, BitBoy then decided to drop the lawsuit. Because, in my opinion, he just assumed that it wouldn't financially hurt me anymore, and it became too public. He wanted this hidden. Again, this is my opinion for why he dropped that lawsuit. Who knows what really happened, though? But that really does set the bar for the kind of person that we're dealing here today. And unfortunately for Big Ben here, the clock was really ticking because, since the last time I covered him on this channel, things have gotten so much worse for him. And this whole story is just so deeply interconnected from start to finish that skipping even one single part can throw everything off. It's just like the classic butterfly effect. Overlook one shady detail of him and suddenly half of it doesn't make sense. It's just like a bad domino effect. That's essentially his career, specifically the last 3 years. Back to when things were going really well for Ben, he managed to build himself into one of the most recognizable faces in the influencer crypto space. I mean, and I've always thought he came across as a massive grifter, but apparently there are a lot of impressionable people out there, as the guy was pulling in hundreds of thousands of viewers listening to him talk about what digital coin would make them rich. And his whole brand was built around the idea that he was just some regular dude who figured out the crypto game. And 5 times a week, Ben would go live to his massive audience, breaking down various cryptocurrency projects, discussing coins like, I don't know, Pamp coin, the only coin that can go up only, and based
Yeah, if they're doing that guy's automatic scam. I mean, they always have a course of some crap, you know.
Basically everything from there to Bitcoin. Essentially, it seems like he covered absolutely everything, from these scams to the more reputable projects. And a big gimmick of his channel was that traditional finance was corrupt, and crypto, that was your real path to financial freedom. Essentially, it was kind of like, see this Lamborghini? My Lamborghini in my garage here, yeah, that wasn't just a car for him. It was pretty much, you know, sold as proof that his system worked, which also is most likely why he was so attached to it. Also, side note, he was definitely the best dressed influencer I have ever seen. Because I mean, you have to be a special kind of person to rock a full Gucci tracksuit and stunt like this in front of a Lamborghini. There is no self-awareness here, but hey, power to him. But he wasn't always the Lambo stunting Gucci tracksuit wearing guy, because he also came from humble beginnings. Because he would tell people about his past struggles with substance abuse back in the early 2000s, how he got clean, how he went to Christian college, and even married his admissions counselor. He explored various business ventures, including graphic design and running a car wash, all in the search for his calling. But then he discovered digital currencies, or cryptocurrency. And it seems like he really started to rake it in when he found out he could use platforms to promote crypto coins. So when the pandemic hit in 2020, Ben really leveled up his operation. He invested in a professional studio setup, hired a production team, and started cranking out as much crypto content as possible. And for a while, it seemed like nothing could stop him, because at the height of the crypto bubble, Ben claimed his portfolio had around $40 million in various cryptocurrencies. But as we later on found out, it turns out that a lot of those assets weren't technically in Ben's name. They belonged to a company called BJ Investment Holdings that he shared with his business partner TJ Shed. But at the time, this wasn't something he disclosed to his audience. So to me, it seemed like while TJ handled all the business operations, Ben was essentially the face of the brand. And in 2023, Ben landed a reported $1 million a month sponsorship deal with Stake, an online casino that enables cryptocurrency gambling. But even when Ben was way up on his high horse, there were some clear warning signs. Because the dude kept promoting coins that tanked immediately after he posted his video, and then you had all the allegations towards him not properly disclosing if he was actually sponsored by this coin or not. And not disclosing at paid financial partnerships, that's a big no-no. Especially when you're indirectly promoting investment advice. But obviously, it was all branded as not financial advice. So that was his get out of jail free card. Ironically, he's facing some serious time for not this whatsoever. So going back quickly to 2022, Ben posted on Reddit saying, let's be clear, I'm not going to prison. Maybe some fine one day based on shifting security laws. Yeah, looking back, that comment aged about as well as you would expect, since he clearly should have been more worried about himself rather than regulations.
What if I told you there's a project guaranteed to increase in price? I know you would probably want to jump in, but I'm sure the first thought you would have would be, wait a second, that doesn't sound right.
I got a letter from the SEC last night. Don't know how long it had been sitting, waiting for me to get back. Gary Gensler has now came knocking at my door. Very scared, Gary. Very scared. I will start by giving you my reaction to the SEC letter from Gary Gensler. Bruh.
I just built a budgeting app with Base 44. Nina just built an app.
So we can all build apps now?
That's my reaction.
Because, I mean, you know, the fact that his whole pamp promotion was legal is just wild to me. But, I mean, we're also in 2025 where everyone and their grandmother has launched a meme coin at this point. So, I don't think everyone's going to get arrested anytime soon. I digress. So, going back to the timeline here, over time, people started realizing, hey, there's some changes with Ben's personality. TJ, who is probably the person closest to Ben's business operations, said in an interview that Ben lost track of the person that he used to be. He caused enormous damage to both his professional and personal relationships. Then in May of 2023, during the time when the crypto market was really struggling to put up
Yeah, these guys always cause chaos with other employees.
lightly, Ben decided to launch his own meme coin called Ben Coin. Or, well, he didn't actually launch this coin. This coin was launched by another Ben called Ben.eth, who is also a questionable figure in the space, to put it lightly. And Ben kind of did this like weird corporate takeover of this meme coin. My understanding is he invested a large amount of money into it and tried to like run it up to his followers. And he worked on this with someone by the name of Cassandra, who was working as a contractor for his company and had actually been pretty valuable to his operation, because she was apparently one of the people who helped secure this massive steak sponsorship deal. But Ben's staff thought this meme coin idea was absolutely terrible. Let's just say they could see it for what it was, a shameless cash grab that would make Ben look like a complete sellout. Which is absolutely wild that that's where they drew the line, because he was doing all sorts of crazy stuff before then, including suing me. Like, how did they not see that was gonna be a bad idea? Obviously, I'm biased here, but still. What about Pamp? Like, there's so many projects he's promoted that would be like a terrible idea, but they went along with that. Well, they drew the line on the meme coin. But let me make it extremely clear. I don't think a meme coin is a good idea whatsoever for him, nor do I think it's a good idea now. I think anyone who launches a meme coin right now is making a serious mistake. Obviously, sites like Pump Fun have completely normalized it, but either way, I do not think it's a good idea to essentially be a facilitator of speculation and gambling, especially if you have a public brand and image and reputation to maintain. But this is where things got kind of dicey, because Ben was still married to his wife Bethany Armstrong at this time, and they had 3 young kids together. So not only was he making questionable business decisions, but he was also destroying his personal life in the process, as
Knock, knock, guys. Who's there? Crypto loser.
TJ said himself. And the staff didn't want the BitBoy channel associated to Ben Coin at all. And by August of 2023, the situation had deteriorated to the point where Ben's own business partners decided they needed to remove him from the company entirely. So Hit Network, the parent company of BJ Investment Holdings, essentially executed a corporate coup to strip Ben's control of the BitBoy crypto brand. And I think this was also a questionable idea because, you know, they built the entire brand around this guy. So, yeah. So TJ Shed apparently used a clause in their operating agreement that allowed him to actually buy out Ben's stake in the business. And this effectively cut him out of everything they'd built together. And this, I guess, leads us to the most symbolic moment in Ben's downfall, where he lost the Lamborghini that had become synonymous with a success story. And this whole situation was so unbelievably insane that I didn't believe, like, when he went live with this situation, I just had to go live because it was just unbelievable for me. But TLDR, Ben decided to bring his side chick to his business partner's house and get his Lamborghini back while he was live streaming, and apparently had a firearm in the car as well. So, you know, that was just unbelievable. Obviously, the police were called because he also ding-dong ditched Carlos while live streaming. There was like a whole plethora of things that were just like, what is going on here? And naturally, he was arrested. And this is where this infamous moment happened where the police asked him, who is in the car? And you saw he did not want to answer that because he remembered he was live streaming this himself. So this was being broadcasted for the entire world to see, or well, at least the whole crypto community to see. And he had publicly apologized to his wife and to his business partners previously, saying that he's all in it for them, he's focused on his family, and he's going to get better. Then he admits that his side piece is in the car with him as he's acting incredibly manic outside of his business partner's house, claiming he's going to, you know, get his Lambo back. I am still shocked that was a moment on the
There's a Harbor Freight store in your neighborhood, so stop by, neighbor.
Arknight's Infield has one of the coolest main characters, but you might not know that you can actually play as a panda. This
the internet that actually happened, because I cover a lot of insane stuff here. Little did I know that was going to happen. Like, if I go back to what, 2022, I think I made that video. No, 2021. I think I made my first video on BitBoy in 2021 about his whole Pamp thing. Little did I know that that video would then slowly turn into this big of a story. So when I made that video on him, I thought he was just gonna be, you know, just another crypto scumbag. Little did I know he was going to become basically the largest crypto scumbag and then have one of the craziest downfalls of all time in an extremely short amount of time. But just to give you, I guess, the quick TLDR of that case, in case you don't remember the full details, there was a crypto investor by the name of Carlos Diaz. Carlos is apparently a huge BitBoy fan since the beginning, and somehow he convinced Ben to sign over the title of the Lamborghini to him? So that didn't make sense whatsoever. From what I could find on Twitter and so on, the internet was saying that Carlos' version of the story was that he had invested heavily into Ben coin based on Ben's promotion. Apparently he lost a whole bunch of money when the coin crashed and wanted the car's compensation. I don't know if that's true or not, but it sounds questionable, to put it lightly. Then you have Ben's version of the events is that Carlos showed up claiming to represent Hit Network and was trying to help the company raise emergency funds, also mentioning that he felt physically intimidated into signing over the title of the Lamborghini. Whatever the real story was, Ben ended up driving to Carlos's house with Cassandra, live streaming the entire confrontation to his audience. And what's also important is not only did he live stream everything, he also, publicly doxed Carlos's address and ended up getting arrested on camera.
This is where Carlos lives, guys. I am live streaming from Carlos's house. Carlos has my Lamborghini right here. No. Wait. In his garage. I'm gonna be live streaming and I'm gonna be telling the entire story of Carlos Diaz, who Carlos Diaz is.
Yeah, okay.
I'm gonna be talking about all the people he's affiliated with. I'm gonna be talking about how he got into my building. I'm gonna talk about all of it. I'm not scared of you, Carlos! Sorry, I reached too fast, I'm sorry. Sorry. Okay.
Put your phone down.
Okay.
Put the phone down.
Okay. I'll put the phone down. Okay.
Put the phone.
Alright. Okay. Alright. Okay. Put the phone down.
Put the fanny pack down.
Okay.
What's going on?
What's going on? This man inside of this house.
Actually, he's gonna check you real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good. You have the weapons.
I'm sorry. I have a. Okay. Yep. No weapons.
So when this case went to court, the judge ruled in Carlos's favor, and the reasoning was pretty straightforward. The judge determined that Ben couldn't prove the vehicle was his personal property rather than a company asset. So the Lamborghini that Ben had used as his ultimate symbol of his crypto success might have never belonged to him in the first place. So apparently, the company could have just owned the car all along. And while Ben was fighting all these legal battles, it's safe to say his personal life was definitely struggling. And with his business empire essentially collapsing on him, he decided to start over.
Yes,
he launched a brand new YouTube channel called Ben Armstrong Crypto, which is now called BitBoyX. And this, I guess, was an attempt to rebuild his brand. But the response was somewhat mixed, to say the least, because at this point, people were watching more out of curiosity of his downfall than, in genuine interest to his advice. Because he's been, how do we even put this? At the time of all this going down, he kind of painted himself as a complete crash out. So he's not really proving himself as the person to go to for crypto investment advice. Because let's be real. If you watch his actions, it's not like you're gonna go, oh, I'm gonna trust this guy's opinion with my money. Because at this point, he just seemed manic and insane. And I don't think anyone wants to trust the opinion or trust anyone who's manic and insane with their money. So it's just a massive uphill battle for Ben to rebuild.
Guys, it has been a rough couple weeks. I think everybody sees what I've been through. And I just want you guys to know that I love you and I appreciate you and you have a new name. Your name used to be the Bit Squad.
Sure
but
you
the
do.
Bit Squad goes away with the BitBoy Crypto channel. BitBoy as a name for me is dead. I am now Ben Armstrong, which is my name. And I gotta be honest with you. Certainly the branding with BitBoy was great. But the thing is, being a 40-year-old man, I'm about to be 41 here soon, and having people call you BitBoy, it's a little weird. And so from now on, BitBoy is dead. The Bit Squad is dead. Ben Armstrong is here. And Ben Nation, that is our community.
But Ben kept insisting that he was the victim of some elaborate corporate conspiracy, but at this point, considering what we know, viewers weren't very sympathetic towards this narrative. Meanwhile, his legal problems kept accumulating and he's already burned through more than $150,000 on lawyers and had lost a significant chunk of his assets. And obviously, when the news of Ben's affair with Cassandra first broke, he and his wife Bethany made a video where they both pledged to work on their marriage and, keep their family together. And that's the video I mentioned previously. And in October, Bethany filed for divorce. So by the end of 2023,
Yeah, Mom had silence for Bethany.
Ben had lost pretty much everything. His company, his brand, his marriage, his car, and most of his money. And that's pretty much where we were up to, because throughout 2024,
He
other than
lost
the
it all,
efforts of, trying to rebuild his audience, things were relatively quiet on the Ben Armstrong front. Everything up until now that we've discussed in this video has happened roughly 2 years
Big
ago.
ban.
But then, February of 20.
What if you could clean your retainer at the touch of a button? No more brushing or tablets. Over 4 years ago, our team of
2025 rolled around and everything exploded in the most diabolical yet tragic way. Because I guess in between that, he started a boxing career where he was doing these like crypto influencer boxing matches. That's pretty much it though. But then February of 2025 came around and it's safe to say a whole lot of stuff just got flared up, because on February 11th, 2025, Ben posted a now deleted tweet that would turn out to be a preview of his complete mental breakdown. He wrote, "Hit network for 18 months has destroyed my life. TJ Shed has willfully targeted me. Congratulations to him. Cassie and I broke up today. The day I start telling the story. I'm willing to lose Cassie, my lawyers, my kids, my audience, my channel, and my life before I'm willing to die without people knowing what actually happened." That tweet, I guess, was a warning shot aimed at everyone he blamed for his situation, because 3 days later, on Valentine's Day, he followed through on his threat in the most unhinged way possible. Then started a live stream called BitBoy_Manifesto, which he opened by literally screaming at everyone.
Do I have your attention now? Do I have it? You're gonna listen to my demands.
Chat.
Damn! I will make them at the end.
Which is possibly one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. Again, I mean, it's all downhill. The dude started falling down that staircase in 2023, and he is still falling down that staircase today. And at one point while going through this entire manifesto, it became very clear that this was written by ChatGPT. So that's interesting as well. However, though, he never really made any demand by the end of the stream. He just seemed defeated, and it's honestly pretty sad to watch. The whole broadcast lasted nearly 4 hours and was filled with bizarre accusations, contradictory statements, sensitive topics, and moments where Ben seemed to forget what he was even talking about halfway through his sentence. Overall, it was just a complete dumpster fire of a stream. Like, the whole thing didn't make sense. He would have been so much better if he never did that. He would have been so much better if he never did a whole bunch of things that he did. But again, it keeps getting worse, because early
He would have been better if he never did anything right, chat.
in the stream, he made it clear that his entire life had been focused on one goal: getting revenge on his former business partners and reclaiming the BitBoy brand.
My entire life is dedicated to shutting that channel down. That's when this is over. The day Discover Crypto is shut down and I get my brand, BitBoy Crypto, given back to me.
Buddy, that ship has sailed. But shortly after that statement, he went on to talk about being framed for stealing $27 million.
In order to try to get me in trouble for their crimes. This is a true story, guys. I'm going to say this, and this is hard. It's going to be hard for my kids. It's hard for my ex-wife. The fact is, I'm not trying to play victim. If I would have gone back to Bethany, I would have stayed in that basement. I would have made videos like they told me to. These guys were actively and still are actively, along with George Koenig and Justin Odell, trying to frame me for stealing $27 million that these guys stole in the beginning. Not only did they steal my money, they wanted to fucking send me to prison.
But I feel like one of the more concerning parts of this first hour and a half came when he described being forced to see a psychiatrist who diagnosed him with dissociative identity disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, manic depression,
And need the professional help.
ADHD, and supposedly 74 different conditions total. Ben's response to this professional evaluation was apparently to attack the doctor personally and claim that all his problems would magically disappear once his enemies were removed from the internet.
The doctor that Brandy DeSwanee had forced me to go see, by the way. When I said I didn't want to see that doctor, I went and saw another doctor. And then they said, no, that doctor's not good. You have to go see this one. So I went and saw this guy, Dr. Howard Drutman. What disappointment of a human being he is. This guy, after all I'm about to go through with you here, said I'm multi-personality. He says I'm, he didn't say schizophrenic, but he said narcissistic. He said I am manic, depressed, ADHD, this, 74
I
different
wonder
things.
why.
But you know what he didn't say? Anything about my trauma. He didn't say anything about my PTSD of what I've been through. Nothing. You know what his suggestion was? He needs to stop smoking pot and get on more prescription drugs. That's why I gave him 9 things. You, Randy, my old lawyer, the worst lawyer of all time. Randy, I don't know why you hate me. You're going to find what was done to me is real. And once this trauma is removed and Discover Crypto is shut down, my life goes back to normal immediately. My level goes from here. Wow, everything's fine again. These people have to be removed from the internet.
Suddenly, the lawsuit towards me is starting to make a little bit more sense. But after this, Ben started pushing his luck as he displayed an attorney's website on screen and explicitly told his audience to contact her and tell her how they felt about her not letting him see his kids.
This is her website. I want you to let her know what you guys think about her not letting me see my kids. It's been 6 weeks since Christmas. I got to see them one time. I can't even give them their Christmas gifts. My son's jersey is the biggest thing. I haven't been able to give it to him. My wife won't cooperate. And also, Randy DeSwanee will not cooperate. Nobody will cooperate to let me see my children. I get to talk to them for 10 minutes every 2 weeks. And why am I getting drug tests? Because my wife, Bethany, reported to the court that I asked on Twitter whether people believe that I was doing and the reason I asked, because I was using for evidence for the case for things I'm doing right now. So I've been having to take drug tests ever since. Thanks, Bethany. I never wanted it to be this way between us.
Which is just so sad. But obviously, that's not going to help his custody situation at all. But Ben just seems to be beyond caring about any consequences whatsoever. Unfortunately for him, that ship has also sailed.
Oh, sure,
Because let's
it
be
would.
real, someone who opens their live stream trying to clear their name like this,
do I have your attention now?
should not be near kids whatsoever. He then spent a significant portion of the stream ranting about George Koenig, who he claimed was the mastermind behind some sort of conspiracy to steal his money. However, Ben kept switching between calling George his lawyer and then calling him a criminal, even though that George was actually representing the other side in his legal battles.
Because of George Koenig. George Koenig is the corrupt one. I want everyone.
This is what happens in construction when you try to hire in-house or
Everybody know that. Daniel is just kind of weird. Like, you would not trust your kids with Daniel Norris, okay? At all. George Koenig? Well, if you're a dude, be careful. But in all seriousness, George Koenig is the mastermind behind layering this from a lawyer perspective to help them do all this and steal all this and get away with it. He's also, I want you guys to think about this. I'm in a current case with CFTC along with Hit Network. And you know who my lawyer is? George Koenig. The court, Judge Marjorie Childs and Special Master of the Loud, not Marjorie Childs, I'm sorry, Judge Kimberly Childs. I missaid your name. I'm really sorry, Judge. I believe the judge was involved in this decision that, guys, I lost my train of thought. I said that about the judge and I forgot what I was saying. I'm just going to read.
Then at one point, Ben flat out accuses George of bribing judges, which definitely is not going to help his legal case.
George Koenig, I want a minute on the lawsuit. George Koenig is not a regular lawyer. He is a criminal. He knows the securities laws in and out. You know he knows there's criminals, and he knows how to frame me. He's got to be part of the lawsuit. We have to amend it. My lawyers don't want to do it because they believe he's a lawyer, and they don't want to do it to lawyers, but he's got to be added. Daniel Norris, I don't think Daniel Norris has to be added. I just would not trust my kids around that guy. Oh, God. This article also highlights how Hit Network requested a restraining order against me, painting me as a threat to distract from their asset seizure. You gotta understand, here's what they did. So when TJ and them cooed, they went to Accuracy Police and told them I was going to kill everybody, and they had to put a cop car in front for several weeks. So I couldn't come into my own building I own 67% of because TJ changed the locks and had a cop out there. And then we went to court and George Koenig bribed the court. I'm sure George Koenig bribed the court and made it where they dropped it in the beginning because they thought they were going to get away with all this until the honorable Judge Kimberly Childs. I love Judge Kimberly Childs. She's so honorable.
Now, another low point of the stream came when Ben, as I mentioned earlier, revealed that he's been using ChatGPT to write parts of his manifesto. Ben also kept trying to use the AI to rewrite articles about himself to make him look even better. And when, I guess, the summaries kept making him look bad, he started arguing with the program like it was a person who was supposed to be helping him.
Give me a 2-paragraph summary of the New York Times article and how it relates to the real BitBoy story.
Then Ben basically admitted to the very thing I mentioned in my original video that sparked his whole lawsuit against me, the pump and dump schemes. For him, the real issue was that I'd accused him of doing a pump and dump, but he claimed his team was doing that behind his back without his knowledge.
The Atozi lawsuit and him conspiracy. The lawsuit between me and Atozi initially appeared to be a defamation dispute centered around allegations of crypto pump and dumps. However, the deeper truth revealed a strategic cover-up orchestrated by hit network Justin Williams and affiliated actors to deflect blame for their financial misconduct into Armstrong. The document exposes the hidden mechanisms behind the lawsuits, actors involved, and the real financial beneficiaries of the PAMP scheme and other similar crypto projects. Me, acted as a hype man promoting coins without financial access to financial operations. Never had control for wallets, liquidity, or token distribution. This one is actually not true. I did have control of my PAMP wallet. I told you guys if I go through here and something's not true, I did have access over my PAMP wallet, and I can eventually find that wallet and show it to you guys. You'll find it to make any money. But here's the important part. In September of 2020, right? So
Just crypto
the PAMP
crap.
was in August of 2020. By September of 2020, TJ comes in. By October of 2020, I have no financial control of the company. I have no access to anything that TJ and his dad, or TJ at first, and then TJ and his dad don't have access to. I sued Atozi for defamation because of his claim. He claimed I was responsible for pump and dumps without realizing it was my own team executing these schemes behind my back.
And at this point, honestly, this just kind of seems like a classic BitBoy move. Nothing's ever his fault, and everyone is against him. There might have been pump and dump schemes happening, but Ben was innocent here.
I lost $5,000 on PAMP, something like that. That's not an exact number, but I did not make money. I promise that. And it was, I think it was a week later that I sold it, maybe 10 days after the video, something like that. I didn't sell anything after the video.
Sure,
I
you're
was an
there.
idiot like y'all. I thought all these coins were going up. And Justin Williams, these guys were telling me they were going up, and they were dumping them.
Yeah, this is coming from someone who had spent years positioning himself as a crypto expert, telling people which investments, not exactly to make, but what he would recommend, you know, indirectly hinting at buying, all while accepting payments from projects to promote them, and then building his entire brand around being someone who understood the market better than anyone else. And then now suddenly he's saying he was an idiot like y'all when it comes to these shady coins. Dude, I'm not buying that whatsoever. And also, as the stream went on, Ben became increasingly reckless about displaying contact information of state agents. He looked up contact information for the Cobb County Police Department and told his audience not to contact them.
Here's the full Lamborghini extortion call from Carlos to me. You can find it on Twitter. Here's the detailed breakdown. Analysis of Lamborghini extortion call. Cobb County Police. Let's find Cobb County Police contact info. I don't know if anybody cares. If you do care, here's the Cobb County Police Department right here. 545 Fairground Street. Here's their phone number. Don't call them and tie up their phone lines. Don't call 911. Don't make emergencies not be able to get got. If you're from Cobb County, call the police. Go to the police department. Go to their website. Tag them on Twitter. Where's their Twitter? Here, I'll follow them. Hey, Cobb County Police Department.
Then later, he did the exact same thing with another attorney involved in his case, displaying her email address and encouraging her followers to let her know what you think.
Your perfect domain is out there. Go to Wix and make it yours.
Think about her attempt to cover up everything.
Where's Lori Dyke? Let's see. What's Lori Dyke's email? Hold on just a second. So you guys can all email Lori Dyke. She knows the court. I'm getting in big trouble for saying that, for doing this, because the court hates when people hold them accountable. They hate when anybody suggests that maybe someone there is corrupt, because the court hates the mention of corruption. They don't hate corruption. They love corruption, but they hate the mention of it. As you know, Cobb County, the worst of all. You guys should email Lori. It's here. I'll put it on Twitter. This is not my account. I don't know who this is. Have y'all looked into Lori Dyke? She hates when you say her last name too. She hates that. She hates her last name. You guys all email Lori and let her know what you think about her attempt to cover up everything. For me, you'll see it gets much worse.
I mean, at this point, Ben had completely abandoned any pretense of being the victim. Like, he was actively encouraging his followers to harass multiple people involved in his legal proceedings. And the stream continued for another hour, with Ben becoming increasingly erratic and eventually started speaking about his depression while also stating he would never harm himself because of his love for his children.
It's the kids, man. The kids. I love my kids so much. They think their dad is some kind of villain. He's some kind of crazy, he's my might fly off at the handle, do anything at any second. All of a sudden, he's crazy.
The whole stream was just incredibly sad to see. But then comes the next act, jail. Because a few days after that live stream, Ben seemed to recognize that he'd gone way too far. He posted a video in which he had a black eye, apologizing to various people, including his ex-wife and his audience, also stating that it wouldn't ever happen again, and that he was going to focus on crypto content going forward. But unfortunately, that didn't take too long, because in March of 2025, Ben was arrested in Florida on a fugitive warrant related to charges filed in Georgia. Apparently, he'd been making harassment allegations against the judge in his case. He had fired his lawyer, deciding to represent himself, and threatened the judge on LinkedIn, saying, "Judge Kimberly of Cobb County has ruled against my motion for receivership of Hit Network. This is a decision she will regret for the rest of her life." Threatening a judge might be one of the dumbest things you can possibly do when you're already in multiple legal battles. But apparently, Ben just doesn't care. He was then released about 10 days later, but his behavior did not improve. He then decided to double down on threats against judges and police officers, which led to another arrest in June. And the mugshot of that arrest became pretty infamous because he looks like a shell of the man he once was. Eventually, Ben ended up in a psychiatric facility, which was probably the best possible outcome given how his behavior had escalated. One of his former colleagues, a guy who goes by AJ Reichs Crypto, who had tried to help Ben rebuild his channel, wrote a detailed post about what had happened. Drugs, ego, paranoia, and a complete disconnection from reality had destroyed Ben's mind. He said Ben was currently in a mental hospital, not prison or rehab, and he had offered to pay Ben to get treatment, but Ben had refused. AJ described it as a tragedy rather than a redemption story, which pretty much sums up how this whole situation played out. The big question now is what happens when Ben gets out of the psychiatric facility? Because realistically, he's currently facing years in prison for all the harassment charges, or a judge might actually rule that he wasn't mentally competent when he made those threats. Then, of course, since everything about this story keeps getting worse, it does in fact keep getting worse, because remember he was dealing with all these legal problems? Well, he also said some absolute insane stuff about Kevin O'Leary. Yes, you know, the Shark Tank guy. Because Ben spent way too much time claiming that Kevin was responsible for a 2019 boating accident where Kevin's wife was driving when two people lost their lives. The accident had been investigated and ruled accidental, with Kevin's wife being cleared of any wrongdoing. But Ben decided it was actually a cover-up and started calling Kevin a murderer on social media. Ben then escalated this to the point where he was doxing Kevin's phone number and encouraging his followers to call him. Eventually, Kevin had enough and filed a defamation lawsuit, which is just incredibly ironic because the guy who filed a slap suit defamation lawsuit against me is actually being sued for defamation for real defamation. But because Ben is dealing with multiple arrests and his mental health crisis, he never bothered to defend himself in that case. And the judge issued a judgment in Kevin's favor, and the damages will be determined later on this year. Apparently this judgment happened a month ago, but there's no public information of what actually happened to this trial. So Ben lost that on default, but the trials kept going and Ben did not appear. So the last hearing was on October 30th. O'Leary presented 2 witnesses. Armstrong did not appear. So after the hearing, the court requested additional material. So even though that Ben didn't show up, they did go forward without him because I guess they're just assuming that he's not showing up, and I'm assuming also he's representing himself, just like his other case. But it seems like the judge has not issued a final written damages judgment yet. Okay, so I just wanted to figure out what was going on with that case real quick. I digress. At this point, it is fairly safe to say that Ben's life might have actually hit rock bottom. The butterfly effect from this initial decision to act inappropriately at his company led to a complete destruction of everything that he built. Because essentially, him acting out completely destroyed his career. He essentially chose to go to war with everyone around him and lost absolutely everything in the process. So right now, hopefully Ben is getting the help he desperately needs. Whether he'll be able to rebuild any kind of normal life after this still remains to be seen, given the bridges he's already burned and the legal troubles he's currently facing. That's definitely not going to be easy for him. It's going to be a real uphill battle. But for the sake of the kids, I really hope that Ben eventually figures out how to get his life back on track. But based on everything we've seen, my hopes aren't too high, because this would actually require him to change his approach to life and actually take responsibility for his own actions, while up until now he's shown no ability to do so. But, you know.
Changing at all with you at.
There's always some time. He was released from jail and he's since returned to YouTube on a new channel and is live streaming daily. But with crypto going into another potential bear market and with the overall hype for crypto tremendously down, that too will definitely be hard to rebuild. This whole saga has just been wild to watch unfold, but it's also an extremely tragic example of how social media fame and money can completely destroy someone's life when they lose sight of what actually matters. Because this guy had everything at one point and he just completely self-destructed. And that's the story of how the largest crypto YouTuber managed to destroy his entire life in the span of just a few years. A lot of people really wanted me to make an update video on the situation since everything has been in a downward spiral for him since the lawsuit. And I want to be honest and say, I am not happy to see all this happen. While he caused the most stressful week in my life, it's in the past. And all I can focus on is my actions today that will make my life better tomorrow. And holding some sort of grudge would not be a part of that. But do I think he acted like a complete moron and let his ego destroy his family's life? Absolutely. But I think it's an absolute tragedy, and I genuinely hope he gets the help he needs. And I truly do wish him and his family the best moving forward. But other than that, feel free to subscribe if you're new here. Drop a like if you enjoyed this massive recap, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Well, I hope Ben get the help that he needs.